Okay, very good afternoon. So, warm welcome to the data engineering sessions. We are going to discuss about what exactly the data engineering as we discussed yesterday, and what are the curriculum which we are going to flow, uh, which will help you to achieve the data engineer. Okay, so for achieve the data engineer, we have gone through the vendor, which is Azure. So first, and the most typical thing which we need to understand, what is the data engineering? Okay, as per, so in general, data engineering, it's refers to the set of services and tools provided by the Microsoft with respect to Azure. Okay, and in general, if I say roughly, if I talk about like the data engineer refers to creating the practical designs for systems that can extract, keep and inspect data in a large scale. Okay, so who is the data engineer? Data engineer, nothing but it refers to creating a practical design for systems that can extract, keep and inspect data at a very large scale. It involves building pipelines, okay, and where we can fetch the data from the source and we can transform by using the different forms, analyzing the data and presenting the data to the customer. That is the main role about the data engineer. If you want me to repeat again, I will repeat. See, data engineer refers to create a practical design for systems where they can extract and keep and inspect the data. Keep in the sense, store the data at a large scale. Okay, so what they will do, they will involve the multiple pipelines to fetch the data from this source and transform it and analyze them, and it provide the data to the customers. That is the main insight about the data engineer. So in order to achieve that, so first we need to know, we need to collect the data, and we have to keep it somewhere. Once the data is collected and it was get stored, and we need to go for the preparing the data. We have to just do the cleanup because we will be having the raw data, and the data need to be prepared using the different tools. So once the data is prepared, we need to go for the exploration. You need to explore the data. What kind of data is they're looking for by the data scientist or data analyst. So collecting the data, preparing the data, visualizing the data will be done by the data engineer, and the data analyst will try to predict the data along with their tools, or they will start analysis the data and provide to the data science team. Okay, this is a very big, large scale, and the intent of this particular process is to overall to make the business functioning and help the stakeholders based on the customer requirement. Got it? So in general, so the next one is prediction. The prediction will be done by the data analyst team. Okay, so data engineering job is all about a, like, you know, it's a booming kind of a thing now. From past 3 to 4 years, you can see that data engineers are having the highly packages towards majority of the, compared to the developers, majority of this market. And if you see the market analysis, data engineer is the occupation which is fast growing in the entire software industry. You can see here the data engineer will be occupying around 50% of his share in respect to the software industry. Next, we have the backend developers, nothing but the Python and the Java developers, senior data scientists, CRM like SAP or Siebel or PeopleSoft or Salesforce, like UI, like our HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the React. Okay, and the Python developers, Android developers, DevOps engineers, cloud architects. See, these are all the profiles which are in the top-notch profiles where they're getting a, like, the ambition is like nothing, like, their salary range is more than expectations. Okay, so this is why, and especially Azure is predominantly growing in all these years. With respect to 60% of the entire market is controlling by the Microsoft Azure, with respect to cloud, with respect to the data engineering tools, with respect to their storages and rest of the architect part. Okay, and here, as a data engineer, we need to focus on few tools, and that tools where we need to get familiarized with those tools to change the data landscape from the raw data into the visualization, where you are going to add some more, like I can say, like you are going to add some more enhancement for the existing data to make predictions, to analyze the data, and you are going to provide the same to the customer satisfaction. Okay. And here, what you asked, sir, where do we get the SQL? The SQL, I mean, like the structured query language, which is used to write and optimize the SQL queries, where you will be dealing the enormous data sets on Azure Data Engineer. For that, we no need to worry about, sir, what I have to learn for that. No need to worry about anything. We need to create queries, like using subqueries or adding some tables, like joining some tables and providing the aggregate data. Okay, and also adding some indexes, adding some effective data structures to optimize queries. This is all about we are going to provide from the SQL perspective, and this is very minimal in this, because of we are using NoSQL for some databases like Cosmos DB. We will talk about little much later. There is no hurry in that. Okay, that is the very first thing. And the second thing, why we need Azure. Okay, so why we are using the Azure now? So recently, the Microsoft retired all its certifications. All its certifications. I will show you some examples. These are the few examples which I have taken here. In 2021, they emerged into the cloud with Azure. They want their fellowships need to get certified with the Azure related certifications rather than being the on-premise certifications. So whatever I'm listed out here, these are all the certifications which are for the on-premise. So Microsoft, see, it was done in 2021. Now we are in 2024. You can see, just think about that. In the span of 3 years, how many people will got certified with the Azure because of its evergreen booming technology and highly paid technology, where we need to also certified with respect to it is Azure administrator, you need to go with the AZ104. If it is for Microsoft Azure architect, you need to for 303, 304, 305 something. And if you want to go for data engineering, you need to complete your DP203, and for data science, DP201 and DP200. So these are the certifications which are very hot now. So we need to, once we are done with this program, we are ready to take the challenge as to write the exam certification DP203. Okay, so that is the secondary. First, we'll talk about what exactly data engineer will do, what is his role, and where he comes into the picture. So generally, we have I'm not talking about any support kind of a thing today. I'm just want to give you the background of the developer. So developer will develop the code. Okay. So with respect to developer, he will develop the code and he will throw the code to the maintenance team. So, okay, they are doing their regular activities, the maintenance team or support team. So what BI developer will do, he will create the reports. He mainly focus on the reports. Like in very early days, we used to have the crystal reporting, which will be using by the Microsoft. From there, it was evolved into the bigger evolution with Power BI, with the Power BI. So after crystal reporting, they have introduced SQL Server reporting services. Once it was evolved into a Power BI, now all the Power BI became a very vast and like, it's a widely improvised reporting tools. And here, the problem here is in order to go with the proper data, they don't be having the proper data, because earlier we used to have the SSAS, analytical services in Microsoft, and SSIS, integration services we have in the Microsoft. Those, because with using these three services, AS, IS, RS, PA developer used to create queries, extract the data, like how Bhaskar told, like he used to work for the Informatica. Bhaskar Informatica is a warehouse, correct? Right? So in order to go with Informatica, what is the best possibilities you have to do for the data warehouse? Yeah. Okay. So just like that, here it's a bunch, like, we have a bunch of things we have to do. We will talk about in detail in our upcoming sessions, in our future classes. So the data engineer here, what he will do, he will exactly confront the data which they need to build the proper foundation, like the data is properly available for these two people, where they can create and develop it, and they can provide the better support. Okay, and here data engineer need to test and maintain the architecture level data set processes, and we used to use some statistical methods, like we need to have our skills little bit required with respect to programming language like Java, Python, or C++. If it is having, it's a welcome. And if you have any advanced probability or statistics, it is also welcome. But still, if you have experience using the cloud services, just like AWS or Azure or GCP, this is a cloud platform where you need to learn big tools like Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Bricks, and Apache Spark, Hadoop, okay, and Azure Streaming Analysis, okay, Azure Data Lake. Okay, these are the tools which will be helping you out to fulfill your day-to-day activities. And the next journey is to reach as a data scientist. Okay. So any doubts here? If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Yeah, cool. So moving on to the next one, what will be the learning objective for this entire week? What we're going to learn here, the very first thing, we will try to create our Azure subscription. So we will be having a free subscription. We don't need to worry about that, but we need to worry about the debit card, where it has to have the same address what you're having, your current residing address, or in, like, your telephone number, whatever you are having, it has to be matched. If it won't match, your identity will get rejected, and you won't get that debit card will be useless, and you can't register it once again. That is the problem. And you can also use the credit card, but using credit card is not viable. We should not encourage, we don't know, because now, because of these options, like, the amount is to be get deducted. We don't want to use the credit card. We can only use the debit card if we have. So that is one of the learning objective. And the next one is the way how I'm going to deliver the data. You will going to be get familiar with the Azure portal, how the Azure portal will be looking like and what are the things are involved in this particular Azure portal. Okay, you'll also get familiarized with that process. And the third one is like you will be also acquire the high level understanding knowledge of Azure services and its categories. How many kind of services we have, which are very much important for us to understand from the basic, what kind of services are offering by the Azure and what could be the limitations and what kind of free services are available once we finished our subscription as well. Okay, we'll talk about in detail about that. And the next one, it's very important after going through the services and once you got the subscription, once you got the thorough idea about the Azure portal, you need to have the idea on how to create and manage resources through resource groups. Okay, the everything we will talk about in detail. And resource management, like if you want to handle the resource groups, you need to have the better understanding about the resource management, how hierarchically it will be present. Okay, and the next one we'll be talking about the how to create the tags for the billing purpose and other purposes and all. Like if you are utilizing any resources, if you are using any resources or the services, you need to be pay for that. That is how it was designed. So everyone are pretty clear about the on-premise and the cloud. Do you want me to explain about that? Yeah. So Bhaskar, you have the better idea about what is on-premise and the cloud, correct? So you want me to go for any glimpse? Okay. Yeah. So on-premise, generally, on-premise is nothing but our, if you see if in our offices, we used to have the, now they're offering the laptops. Earlier, they used to have the dedicated workspaces they used to provide us. So in the workspace, we used to have the CPU, we used to have the monitor, and now the same thing, now they're giving us a laptop. And every now and then we used to log in with our domain account, correct? If you want to log in to your account, they need to provide some, like for suppose, if Saroj, you're working for which company? So they will be having some domain authentication for you, right? So, and that is dedicated to your company, and that domain is not going to be available for Bhaskar. The same thing, in order to maintain that domain and that IPs, that all the infrastructure, the companies need to bear about all the expenses. That is called capital expenses. Okay, the infrastructure level, whatever we are doing, it called as a capital expenses. When if you want to maintain those infrastructure, we need to have the operational team like network team, backup team, storage team, and LAN WAN team, desktop team, and some other like we can say backup team. So these are all the infrastructure people where they're handling 24/7 operating the company's infrastructure without any issues. So these are all called operation expenses, like machinery. These are all the part of the operation expenses, right? And who will be bearing all these expenses is like the company will be bearing the operational expenses and the capital expenses. Suppose this year, like Infi is hiring some 1,000 extra employees based on the project requirement, and they need the extra room for their laptops, for their accounts, because there will be some certain bandwidth only available for certain AD account, right? I'm just talking about only accounts, not into their environment, project environment. So if you keep on adding your resources, you need to add on some more like your infrastructure as well. So what will happen? Again, they will be having two. One is the live and the other one is the disaster recovery. Production environment and the disaster recovery environment. Why? Because if something goes wrong with the production, they need to utilize, they need to have the option to back up the things with respect to the disaster recovery. So here, the very first thing, we are talking about the production. If they want to create the production, they need to have a data center on their own, like with Infosys only. If they want to have their own operational expenses, they need to have their own people within Infosys, which is a very cost effective, and they have to maintain their own data centers here. So in order to avoid all these things, Azure and AWS and Google Cloud people, first, AWS is the only cloud vendor who come forward, who offered saying like, we are providing the data centers and the infrastructure with respect to your operation, day-to-day operations. That is a different chapter. I will talk about very in detail about that. So now we got the better idea about what is on-premise and what is the cloud. Clear? Yeah. So moving on to the next one. Here, this is very, very important. The role-based access to the users. Access is the one of the predominant technical glitch which was happening in these days. It was happening since so many years. We need to understand what kind of a role going to help with respect to your permission. Suppose, let's say, if we know, right, we have the sysadmin in MS SQL. We have the main admin user and the super admin user, and we have the normal read viewer access, editor access. We used to have this kind of access, right? So we need to get familiarized with to understand the basic access, how we are going to provide based on their role for the respective user. That is also one best thing you need to understand. And at the end, you have the ability to provide new SQL database services and logging into the SQL SSMS and make sure it's ready to work, start working. Again, question. Sir, why do we log in only for SQL database service? So database is the first step where you have to learn how to fetch the data, how to create a table, how to insert those data into the tables. Because whatever we are receiving is raw data and we have to make it as a structured way. Got it? This looks like having some network glitch for him. Okay. So Bhaskar, is everything is clear? Am I moving fast or you want me to slow down? Okay. Okay, the next slide we're talking about Azure for free. So here we got 12 months free subscription for an account, and you can use your virtual machines, storage and databases in your first 30 days, and for 12 months after you upgrade your account to pay as you go as pricing. And we will be getting 13,300 rupees as a credit, and now it is little increased. You need to use that services in your first 30 days. Got it? And you can also have some free products which will be available, and it's not like there is no any automatic charges will be possible, so you are good to go with your debit card. Clear? Okay. So these are all the technology where our data solutions are using on their day-to-day basis. First and the foremost, we need to know about all these technologies for a better job improvement or for providing a better support for your roles and responsibilities. We need to have a better understanding about the very first thing is data factory. Data factory is a cloud-based data integration service. Data factory is a cloud-based data integration service which allows you to create, schedule, and manage data pipelines for moving, transforming, or moving data from various sources to various destinations. This is a ADF. ADF is nothing but it's a cloud-based data integration service which allows you to create, schedule, and manage data pipelines for moving or transforming data from various sources to various destinations. Here we used to write some code which acts as a data movement and transformation, okay, using visual interfaces. We will talk about in detail about once the concepts will came into the picture. And the next very beautiful thing we can say it's a Databricks. Databricks is an Apache Spark-based analytics platform where it can provide a collaborative environment for big data and data science. Right? It enables the users to process and analyze the large data sets using Spark clusters. Okay, so this is an important, very important subject, Azure Databricks. Why? Because it deals about the Apache Spark based analytics. Okay, and next one we have data lake storage. Data lake storage is nothing but like we have where we can store the data and we can secure our data and we can measure our data for the big data analytics. Okay, it allows you to store and analyze large amounts of data with support for various analytics and data processing frameworks. Clear? So just like that, we have Azure Synapse Analytics, which is nothing but SQL data warehouse. It is like acts as a SQL data warehouse, less like how it was about Informatica earlier. Now the data warehouse is Azure Synapse with respect to Azure vendor. This is the analytics which service the big data and data warehousing together, which will help you to query and analyze the large volumes of data using on-demand or provisioned resources. So that is why Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks, Azure Data Factory, and Azure Stream and Azure Lake is a combination where it will each one of the tool will be helping you out to analyze the data and providing you a best possible ways with the large number of volume. Clear? Just the next one is Azure Stream Analytics. See, Azure Stream Analytics is a real-time analytics service which enables the process and analyzing the streaming data. It can ingest, it can process and analyze the data from various sources in near real time. Okay, that is the one thing. That is a benefit. And the next is HD Insight. What is HD Insight? HD Insight means it's an Azure HD Insight, which is a cloud-based big data platform. We used to know Hadoop, Spark, Hive, HBase, and more, right? So like that, Azure HD Insight is also a cloud-based big data platform which supports various open source frameworks. It will support all the frameworks. Hadoop framework it will support, Apache Spark it will support Apache Hive, and it will support Apache HBase and etc. That is one of the benefit with the Azure HD Insight. And this is in general, this is normal about your regular SQL versus on-premise versus cloud SQL. You need to not worry about much that. And this is the Azure Cosmos DB, which is nothing but your NoSQL, where you can keep your data with respect to unstructured process way, and it don't have any tables. It is having no databases. It is having only containers. That is all about the data solution technologies which we are using now, which we are going to use in our near future as well. Azure Data Factory, Databricks, Data Lake Storage, Stream Analytics, HD Insight, and Cosmos DB, and on-premise versus cloud SQL. And this is our storage. We have queue storage, table storage, blob storage, and file storages. So any questions so far you would like to bring? Okay, and Bhaskar, for you, are you able to cope up with the explanation? Yeah, definitely. Recording will be shared with you, Bhaskar. So you can ask me, like if you have any issues, you can raise your hand by simply pulling this. You can raise your hand and you can ask me. And the very first thing you will say, why it is required to learn all these technologies. So it's very simple. It's very simple. It's all about to maintain your data, transform the data into the reports or to a usable way. Okay. So in order to make use of the data, whatever it is presenting in the different sources. For that, we are using all these tools. And if you are well versed with the tools, definitely in the near future, we should not worry about our job and we should not worry about anything else, like, because going forward in 2025 onwards, after 2025, majority of the clients, majority of the companies are slowly, rapidly, and they will be start moving into the cloud. Only few areas they are not looking for because of the privacy, security with respect to this bank. And apart from that, all the rest of the environments in the universe are moving slowly to the cloud. Clear? Cool. Okay. So that is one thing. And it's just a pictorial representation of the services which are offering by the Azure. Just like Azure, AWS also providing the compute services, storage services, networking services, integration services, and security. They're also providing the pipelines, okay, and computation, like providing the virtual private cloud with the help of EC2 instances. Just like uh, same thing we have in SQL. I mean, like with Azure, we have the virtual machines, containers, like we have the same EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, same just like VMs. And the networkings we have, and in storage we talk about the AWS, we have the S3 bucket and EBS elastic block store, just like we have the blob storage, queue storage, files, and the disk. Okay, so these are all these of services which are providing. Basically, they are providing the platform for the end user, just like Saroj is the end user for me, and I'm the vendor Azure. I'm giving him this solution and a platform or infrastructure so that he no need to invest more money on that, and he should not go expenses which is not like, which acts as a liability, which is not an asset for them. So if I'm maintaining my own infrastructure, it will become a liability. It's not become an asset, because if there is no business, your infrastructure is useless. Making sense? So that's the reason why Microsoft and AWS come to the forward, and they have offered, because they have their own data centers, so that from the data centers they are providing you the support as an infrastructure, as a platform, as a software. So if I ask you a question, if I talk about in general, WhatsApp or Google search engine, is Google search engine is an application? Is a Google search engine is an application? No, in mobile it's an application, separate application. But if you go in the laptop, it will come through browser only. Yeah. So here, if you consider when I'm talking about the search engine, somewhere the data will be stored, and when you are going to retrieve the data, you can able to see the data with the retrieval process, correct? So which means the data is somewhere, it can be stored, correct? So that is where Google is, or anyone, they're offering their cloud services. The same search engine, if you build by yourself, and if you want to recite your data with respect to any data center by opting the Azure, you can do that, correct? You can create your own search engine as well. And here you no need to have the data center and entire infrastructure. You just opt for this Azure infrastructure. It will help you out, and you can maintain your own servers. Clear? So that's one thing. And these are all just a pictorial representations why I want you people to make understand. So these are all a lot of cloud solutions which are offering by the Azure, which will be having its own unique identity to help to solve the day-to-day activities of the end users. It's having the Azure database, like so many SDK. So earlier I can say that Java SDK is the one of the uh, most available SDKs. Now we have the Azure SDK as well. Earlier when you used to have this Visual Studio, it's an application. So this is called software as a service. They're offering you a service through software. Okay, this is not a platform. This is just a software as a service. So we will talk about much in detail about Office 365, Power BI, webhooks. Okay, so there are so many images. So there are so many things where they will go for these hybrid options also, DNS portals. Okay, like that. There are so many things which are there. Okay, and this is very, very important. This is the one which I want you to people to be focused on that. See, Azure subscription management. So when it comes to the picture about subscription, you need to know, you need to have the idea about how you are going to manage your groups, how you are going to take the subscriptions. Based on the subscriptions, how can you go and access your organized resources, correct? So in order to know this one, you need to have the better idea about the first management group. Management group is a container of one or more subscriptions. You can define the policies at this level and you cannot define the policies at this level. This is the only level where you can define the policies. That is very first thing. And when we talk about the subscriptions, these subscriptions are nothing but it's going to talk about the billing, how much it is going to cost for you if you opt for the subscription. Subscription, it's very normal word we used to use in our day-to-day activities, our day-to-day life. Like if you want to go for Amazon subscription, we'll go for the Amazon Prime, right? That is called subscription. You are giving the money and you are opting the Amazon subscription. Sorry, Amazon Prime. Like Hotstar, that is a subscription. Or if you go for this Airtel, Airtel is also subscription, right? You are subscribed when you are subscriber for the Airtel. You have subscribed the Airtel or Vodafone or Jio. You are the subscribers. So here the same thing, when you are going to think about your subscriptions, you need to think about your subscription level as well. How much billing is processing for that particular subscription. Okay. And the third one is the resource groups. Here, these resource groups are nothing but it's a logical container where you can organize your resources. Like I can say this is my resource group 1, resource group 2 and resource group 3. Here I don't want to spend much money and I just take for a general usage. Like I will talk you about in our regular software platform. We have production environment. We do have QA environment or UAT environment. We do have the developer environment. We will call the developer environment as a SIT and we'll call the QA environment as a UAT and we'll call the maintenance environment called as a production or prod. So here production is 24/7 where we used to run the business 24/7. And when it comes to the developer, the SIT environment is required only when developer develop a code and when he try to test the code. Just he want to do the unit testing, he need to do the testing. For that, he don't want to go with the enterprise subscriptions or something more than that. Standard enterprise is not required. Very minimal subscription is required for them. So like that, QA, we need to have some dedication time for after developing the code. We need to do the testing. During the testing, they will go with the multiple testing types like load testing, performance testing, or some other uh, regression testing they will do. Here, why I am taking this example, because just think in the development environment, we no need a standard or enterprise edition. We just need a subscription where they can utilize the resource and where they can utilize the possibilities to in order to develop a code. That is more than enough for them. So that is the reason why it will be having only monthly subscription or whenever it's they want to use, they will go for the option and they will stop it. Earlier it is not like that. If you want to go with the software, they need to pay the license and they need to opt it. If they are using or if they are not using, it doesn't matter to them. They have to, if they have to use it, they have to go with the license and they have to keep with that. So here in QA environment, what will happen if they want to do the load test or performance test? then only they require some kind of environment. And for production, it is a 24/7. It is a known truth to everyone. So we need to go for the enterprise editions, which means a top level editions or top ends. So here, why Azure subscription is matter, because when it required, I want to utilize all these resources, I can switch it on, I can switch it off. Clear? So that is the reason why subscriptions plays a very vital role. I'm telling you, if you open an instance or any resource group, unknowingly you forgot to stop it. So you need to bear the charge amount. But you didn't use it, but you failed to close it. You didn't stop the instance. But as per the Azure, the instance is in progress. Okay. So we need to be very careful. We need to stop it on time, and we have to start it on time whenever it is really required for us to use. We have to think in that way, and we have to be very cautious. Okay. That is about the subscription management. So tomorrow we will talk about the roles and responsibilities of a data engineer and why we really require the data engineer. Okay. So, and do you have any doubts here, guys? So we